Hi everyone! So this week's video is going to be a little bit different. I'm going to be talking to all the script writers out there. So this week we're going to cover sort of how to write, whether it's a good story or a good script overall. There are certain tips and things just to keep in mind so that your script or your story can just really shine. I'm going to start off with things to keep in mind for the actual storyline. Remember, like any good story or script, the whole really movie or premise starts off on a random occurrence or situation, and then the rest of the movie sort of or show explores the consequences of that event or action. Like any good show or story, you should have characters that people can relate to, but they don't have to necessarily be ones that you approve of. Sometimes ambiguity can be a really sort of good story driver and really make your show or movie more interesting. Also remember, in terms of a protagonist and antagonist, it's always good to have sort of a protagonist that is active and is actively seeking something, and also in terms of the antagonist, it's usually good to balance them out. So if a protagonist is shy, then the antagonist should be bold. One should have something that the other doesn't. It's usually something that sort of gives them a very distinct personality and idea of who they are, and also just makes the interaction between them more interesting. You want your protagonist to have to go through something. Usually a story without a conflict or an obstacle isn't really a very interesting one, and it can be as simple premise as, I want to know what happened in my car, and then just sort of explore that, whether it's through something, a form of comedy or drama. And of course, make sure that you have a good ending. One way you can do that is usually by tying up all the loose ends so that you have a very definitive ending, whether it's happy or not. Another thing that you can do is tie up most of the loose ends and leave sort of something that's open-ended, and this is a good way to sort of pave the way for a sequel, or just to something to sort of, if you want your audience to sort of keep talking about it and keep them guessing. There are also some things to keep in mind in terms of the physical script. A good rule of thumb is that a script, about a page in a script, is worth 1 minute of dialogue or film. So your script usually shouldn't be more than 90 pages long. You see that most films are about an hour and a half, and that's usually how long the scripts are. The reason for that is because the movies are a certain amount of time, because if they're longer, then they get less show times if they do end up in theaters. So it's always something to sort of keep in mind. If possible, you should try to make your characters speak in vernacular. So if your setting has a very certain form of speaking, or a very kind of like a distinct accent, that's something that you should put into your script, because it sort of creates a dimension to your overall character and the storyline. You should also write some form of direction in your script. It shouldn't be all dialogue. Sometimes in your head you may imagine a character doing something as they're delivering a line, and if you don't write that down, the script is more open for interpretation, and the actor may interpret the dialogue the wrong way, and it won't come out as you imagined it. So these are just some helpful tips to keep in mind when you're writing a script. And just remember that sometimes the hardest thing about writing a script is actually starting out. So, just go ahead and try it. So you guys know what to do. Like the video, subscribe to the page, and I'll see you guys next week.